D&D players don't understand war. There, I said it, and go ahead and hit that thumbs down button now. But in their defense, players were both trained and rewarded this way. In Dungeons & Dragons, every combat encounter is essentially an exercise in attrition warfare. Monsters' hit points are a big number. The party's sole job is to keep rolling attacks until the number reaches 0. Victory comes from staying alive long enough to outshoot or outdamage the foe. But what if I told you there is a way to take your combat encounters out of the mud of World War I trench warfare and into the modern era, all-domain, combined arms philosophy of maneuver warfare used by the finest fighting force humanity has ever assembled? Hello there, I am One Side Too Many, creator and lead designer of Go All In, a TTRPG about fantasy world turned cyberpunk. And in today's video, we are going to explore how TTRPG combat systems are influenced by real-world military doctrine and how these philosophies shape and incentivize player behaviors both in and out of combat scenarios. We will be using a simple analysis framework in order to add dynamic and strategic layers to any encounter in a system-agnostic manner. The end state is that you, the viewer, are better informed to deliberately plan, prep, or create your sessions that intentionally incentivize the behaviors you want to be rewarded, and reinforces the moments you want to see in gameplay. Time has priority, so let's go all in.
Virus.
Before we continue, let's establish our definitions and provide a few key examples. Attrition warfare is a military strategy where a side attempts to win by wearing down an opponent through continuous combat that inflicts high casualties and depletes resources until the enemy's ability to fight collapses. This doctrine was common in World War I trench warfare. Movement was made through often doomed advances across no man's land, and survival often meant staying put in a trench line somewhere and hoping the enemy made a doomed advance before you did. An example in media is the terribly planned and poorly executed Battle of Winterfell in Season 8 of Game of Thrones, where the combined armies of the living faced against the undead horde in a winner-take-all battle against total annihilation. Maneuver warfare is a military philosophy that aims to shatter an enemy's cohesion and decision-making ability through rapid, unexpected, and violent actions. It focuses on disrupting the enemy's systems by attacking their vital weaknesses and exploiting opportunities rather than prolonged direct-fire confrontation and attrition-based strategy. This was the doctrine applied by the US and coalition forces during the war in Kuwait. Coalition airstrikes on Iraq's power and communication node effectively blinded the Iraqi military, resulting in a decisive victory of the 100-hour war. An example of this strategy in media is, well, also the terribly planned Battle of Winterfell. The armies of the living strategy to eliminate the Night King, the center of gravity of the undead horde, is a great example of this philosophy in practice. If the Night King is eliminated, the entire undead army is defeated without the armies of the living needing to engage the endless horde of undead. This is all well and good, but what does this actually look like? How do these philosophies actually influence gameplay and player decisions in our game sessions beyond just theory? Let me show you. Here is the briefing.
Situation. The party is on a quest to return the relic Sword Excelsior to the King of Tales, Peter of House Elsewhere. Mission. Return the relic sword to the king and determine the status of the knight who carried it, Sir Richard the Red. Enemy. The Scourge of the Land is a giant armored black scorpion Broski, with a hardened armored carapace, deadly venomous stingertail, and pincers that can sunder armor, shields, and weapons. Terrain. Broski's lair is a network of underground tunnels with low visibility, inconsistent footing, restrictive mobility, and the potential for cave-ins is elevated. Troops. The party is a 4-man team of Randy the Ranger, Roscoe the Rogue, Patrick the Paladin, and Wendy the Wizard. Time. Sir Richard the Red has been missing for 24 hours and is feared to have fallen in battle with Broski. If he has not been killed in action, he could be severely wounded and needs immediate medical evacuation or medical attention in order to survive. Civilian considerations. Sir Richard was well liked amongst the population, and there could be adventurous peasants who have ventured into the cavern in an attempt to earn Sir Richard and King Peter's favor. All are at risk of death from Broski.
When approached from the doctrine of attrition warfare, the battle plan is simple. Smack Broski with enough damage that its 10,000 health pool reaches 0 before the player's health pool reaches 0, resulting in a TPK. As players, we think in terms of action economy and damage per round, in order to ensure that we outpace the damage output the Scorpion can inflict. Players lock into their positions, performing only damage-inflicting actions, never moving or risking an opportunity attack that works counter to the attrition warfare strategy. Victory and defeat are simplified into a math equation and a strategic assessment of probability. While uninspired, there is nothing wrong with this strategy. In fact, there are sessions being played right now that are executing exactly as described. It's tradition at this point. Night after night, players lock into position, high five when they roll max damage, feel bad when they roll minimum damage, and get salty when they TPK because the Dungeon Master threw them into an unbalanced encounter. Now for the second What If I Told You this video, that this isn't the Dungeon Master's fault. Equal blame falls on the players and the game system itself. Players since the beginning of tabletop role-playing games have been trained with mechanic after mechanic to both think and plan in this manner after all. It is poor manners to identify a limitation without at least attempting to provide an alternative. Let's walk through how maneuver warfare would reshape the very same scenario we just described. Instead of focusing on how we are going to grind out 10,000 HP, we'll shift our focus to critical vulnerabilities, exploitation plans, and rapid, decisive action. With that mindset in place, here's how the party would approach the encounter. Randy the Ranger knew a thing or two because he had seen a thing or two. Broski's stinger tail is nasty and has the ability to cause total paralysis and kill quickly. In order to use the tail, however, Broski would need a few things: the venom sac that contained the venom, the stinger to deliver the venom, its ability to visually acquire the target, and have that target in front of it and within reach of the tail. So Randy's plan? Take away that one thing. Either destroy the stinger or smash the venom sac. Without it, Broski can't poison anyone. That turns the fight from an attrition grind into a high-stakes maneuver. If we succeed, we survive, recover the sword, and Sir Richard is either rescued or confirmed dead. Trying to think like a giant black venomous scorpion, Randy attempted to predict the scorpion's most likely course of action. When threatened inside its lair, the scorpion will move to attack with its pincers and then with its tail. However, its most dangerous course of action would be if Broski was encountered or forced into one of its tunnels, with the whole team facing the front of the scorpion, getting pinned by its pincers and injected with the deadly venom. Before entering into the monster's lair, Randy lays out the plan for the party. Supporting Effort 1. Patrick the Paladin leads, blocking any surprise attacks and keeping the party safe as Roscoe the Rogue sneaks in. Main Effort. Roscoe the Rogue slips to the Scorpion's flank or rear with his job to blast the stinger or venom sac with precision. Supporting Effort 2. Randy the Ranger follows, firing arrows at the Scorpion's eyes in order to blind it so that its pincers have to stay defensive, giving Roscoe the Rogue room to work. Supporting Effort 3. Wendy the Wizard stays in the mix, using spells to distract the beast, illuminate the dark tunnels, and keep Roscoe the Rogue hidden. She'll avoid using fireballs due to the higher cave-in risk. This encounter already offers some interesting decision points that affect the tactical scenario and the narrative situation as a whole. Does Broski continue to fight after its stinger is destroyed? If so, how does it fight and what tactics does it use? If Broski flees, do the players pursue or do they look for the sword and Sir Richard? What happens if the players encounter Broski, who is executing its most dangerous course of action? Do the players continue to engage or do they withdraw and attempt to re-attack? Do the players engage at all, or do they avoid contact entirely and look for the sword and Sir Richard? All of these questions have their own real-world tactical planning considerations that would warrant their own video. I'll release these at a later date. Alright, now that we've seen how a party can shift from grinding out HP to striking a single weak spot, let's break down the core concepts that make this possible. In real-world doctrine, these are called the center of gravity, critical capabilities, critical requirements, and critical vulnerabilities. I'll run through each one of these using our Scorpion example so you can see how it applies. A center of gravity is a source of power that provides moral or physical strength, freedom of action, or the will to act. Randy assessed the Scorpion center of gravity to be the venomous stinger tail. If Broski can't deliver venom, its ability to dominate the battlefield evaporates. As a quick memory tool, the center of gravity is generally a noun about the enemy. Critical capabilities are the primary abilities essential to the accomplishment of the objective. Randy assessed the Scorpion's critical capabilities to be delivering venom that causes paralysis and death, crushing pincers that sunder armor or shields, and the armor carapace that absorb damage and increase the Scorpion's resiliency. Within a critical capability, the keyword is the verb. It can destroy something, or seize an objective, or prevent you from achieving a mission. Critical requirements are the essential conditions, resources, and means the center of gravity require to perform the critical capability. Randy identified 3 critical requirements: the venom sac that stores the toxin, visual line of sight of the target, and the target be within physical reach of the tail. Critical vulnerabilities are weak points or conditions where an enemy is most susceptible to attack. Randy identified 3 critical vulnerabilities: the stinger itself, which is a small exposed point that can be destroyed by a rogue's dagger or a ranger's arrow; the venom sac, a soft spot that can be smashed with a hammer or explosive; and the eyes, with blinding shots force the Scorpion to rely only on its sense of feel with its pincers. Critical vulnerabilities are sometimes of the silver bullet type, where success can be achieved by focusing on only a single vulnerable critical requirement. More commonly though, they're of the lead bullet type, where final success can only be achieved by focusing on a combination of vulnerable critical requirements that can be affected simultaneously or sequentially. It is the cumulative effect that produces decisive results. By mapping out these 4 critical factors, you instantly know what to target and why it matters. It turns a simple shoot until they die encounter into a decision tree. Do we go for the tail, the eyes, or the venom sac? Which party member is best suited for each of these choices? Now that you have a clear analytical planning tool, let's talk about why it matters for both GMs and players. For Game Masters, first, you have a dynamic encounter design. You can handpick a center of gravity and build an entire scenario around it, giving the party multiple tactical options instead of a single hit-and-run path. 2, it provides narrative depth. When the Game Master describes a vulnerable spot or a critical requirement, you're telling a story about how the enemy works, not just how hard they are to kill. This informs more than just gameplay, but describes the strategy and behaviors that ground the encounter in the fiction beyond just numerical mechanics. And third, you have a balanced difficulty. By giving players realistic chances to exploit weaknesses, you have the ability to unbalance an encounter players would find too easy, or balance an encounter that they may otherwise be an overreach for their player character capabilities. It maximizes decision importance and removes outcomes that just feel like bad luck. For players, you maximize agency and choice. Players can decide, I'll flank and destroy the stinger, or I'll be the one to target the eyes with my bow. 2, you have skill utilization. Each class gets a meaningful role in the exploitation plan. The ranger's line of sight, the rogue's stealth, the wizard's crowd control and the paladin's defense. Abilities matter beyond just damage per round potential. And lastly, you have tension and reward. The stakes are higher when a single action can collapse the enemy. Success feels earned and failure feels dramatic. In short, this framework turns combat from a math problem into a tactical narrative. Players feel like commanders, game masters feel like mission planners, and everyone's decision creates multiple moments that impact the shared scenario. Before we wrap up, let's take a quick detour and talk about why wound-based health systems, those that track tags, aspects, conditions, or statuses, are a natural fit for maneuver warfare gameplay. The core mechanics of these systems already incentivize the type of tactical thinking we've been discussing. First up, you have immediate feedback. In a wound system, a single well-placed hit can do more than just chip away at HP. It can instantly snap an arm, blind a character, or paralyze them. This means the consequences of your choice show up right then and there. You don't have to wait for a health bar to tick down. The instantness turns every attack into a decision with weight. Players see, I hit the spot, my foe can't shoot me back now. It feels visceral and real, exactly what maneuver warfare demands. Second is actual tactical depth. Each vulnerable point can have its own damage thresholds, resistances, or special effects. Think of a skin that is vulnerable to fire, or an arrow that limits a target's mobility by pinning them to a wall. Because these details are already part of the rule set, you do not need to layer on additional modifiers. The game itself forces players to ask, which target should I hit first? Just like a commander deciding which high-value target to strike before unmasking their own main effort. Finally, you have narrative impact. When a character loses a limb, it's not just a stat line. It changes how they roleplay. That small detail turns combat into an immersive drama. Every tactical decision carries weight in both mechanics and story. So if you're looking for a system that naturally supports maneuver tactics, consider adopting and tweaking a wound-based health mechanic. It gives your players instant, meaningful feedback and rewards the kind of battlefield awareness that makes every encounter feel like a real tactical engagement. So, what's in it for me, you ask? Whether you're designing a new encounter or running an old one, start by asking, what is the enemy's center of gravity? What capabilities are most critical? What does it need to function? And where can we hit hard and fast? Use that knowledge to craft encounters that reward clever thinking over pure damage output. Watch your players light up when they finally smoke the scorpion stinger and end the encounter in a decisive and exciting blow that required patience, planning, coordination, and cooperation to successfully execute. If you ask me, this is the holy grail of combat gameplay. If you found this deep dive helpful, smash the like button, drop a comment below telling me what topic you want covered next, and subscribe for more design insights and go all in updates. Until next time, let her ride.